We're all set, Frank.
Yep, I see we're recording.
I think Bob's muted, Frank.
Where is he? Ah, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is Mike Lavery on too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Mike's
I'm gonna make a motion, we come out of executive session. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mike Lavery, you want to explain the one?
Yeah. Yes, Mayor. We emerged from executive session at 8:06 p.m. Where we discussed two affordable housing matters. One was potential litigation, and the other was contractual. No official action was taken. Copies of these minutes will be available at such time as the committee determines there is no harm to the public interest.
Thanks, Mike.
Mayor,
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
actually, Mayor, before we go any further, we have a member out in the audience who wanted to have an open public comment. We're already an hour behind, and he's on the agenda for way late, the open public comment. Could we do something and get him to have an open public comment so he can speak to the committee now?
Bless you, Mike.
Bless you, Mike.
Excuse me. And I don't think saying nothing, yeah, I don't have a problem with doing that, so. But I'll make a motion, we open public comment. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Well,
right,
Frankie,
I'm gonna unmute everybody.
We want to comment on what, I guess,
We don't want to comment on anything.
Transbridge.
Mr. Gibran, are you online now with us?
Yes, sir. Can you all hear me?
All right, let's make sure that nobody else wants to speak first, and then
Yeah, Paul, just want to let Vicky know that we opened public comment. She just joined.
got it.
So
Okay.
we're in public comment if you want to say anything, Vicky. You're on mute. I'm unmuting you. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
All right, you're up, Mr. Gibran.
Good evening. My name is Tom Gibran. I'm president of Transbridge Lines, and I'm joined tonight with Mark Ertel, who's our director of operations. And I thank you for allowing us some time to address the committee. Just a little about Transbridge Lines. We've been serving the residents of Greenwood Township and surrounding communities since 1941, and prior to that under other ownership dating back to 1906. Today, Transbridge Lines provides service to New York City, and an affiliated company operates local transit service under contract with New Jersey Transit, which serves our area to Phillipsburg and then into Easton. So we've been serving the Route 22 corridor to New York City since New Jersey Transit dropped the route in 1984. For approximately 20 years, we've been located at the Phillipsburg Mall, but knowing that the mall was closing, we tried for 2 years to find an alternate pickup for when that did occur. We received a letter back in April from the mall giving us 120 days to leave the mall. And at that point, we had no luck in finding another location until ShopRite put us in touch with the Toll Brothers Corporation. They were very welcoming and wanted to help out and agreed to allow cars to park in their extra unused lot. Now, we received a letter shortly after we announced the move from the township attorney, and I want to apologize to the full committee and to the township that we did not inform you of our decision to move to the new site. It was certainly unintentional to slight anyone. Frankly, I did not realize that we even left the township we were in and moved into your township. Being in Bethlehem, I was not familiar with the boundaries of the three townships that border the Phillipsburg Mall in that area. But having said all that, I am asking the committee to consider giving us temporary permission to allow us to
Mr.
park.
Jabron, I think I'm going to stop. We have a 3-minute limit. I don't know, is this an appropriate forum for this, Mike Overy? I think it's inappropriate for you to ask us. It's public comment. All you can do is comment. You can't ask us for anything.
All
I
right,
think the
I
letter,
apologize.
the cease and desist letter told you what avenues you need to pursue. And that's what I think you should be following. And that's going to the land use board first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were a little
I
confused on that,
appreciate
Mayor.
your
I'm
call.
sorry.
I appreciate you for calling and apologizing for not knowing us, because it was kind of a, surprising blow to read in the Lehigh Valley Live that you're going to start picking up people there. And I appreciate your call. And if everything goes well, I look forward to you as a community partner. But I think you're going over the line on what's appropriate for this discussion tonight. So I'm going to cut you off at this point. Okay.
And Mayor, that's probably my fault. I thought if there was a temporary solution, it could come through the committee, and I had told Tom that this would be an okay place to start. But again, I didn't have legal.
Yeah, public comment, is limited to 3 minutes.
Right.
And it's not the appropriate place to
Did not
ask
know that.
something.
I didn't even think it would be appropriate for him to be reaching out to committee people, individually
Well, anyway,
like that.
well, thanks, Mr. Jabron, for at least the apology and stuff. And I think what you got to do is go to land use board. That's why I really don't want to get involved in any discussions over anything because
He probably doesn't.
you need to go to land use board first.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, may I make one more comment? Just to inform yourself that August 30th, since we have nowhere to go, we will be ceasing service in the community. That's just where we have to get out of the mall. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And I apologize for
That's okay.
not informing
I
you.
understand
Thank you.
you don't understand the procedures, but we have land use laws that we have to follow and enforce. Otherwise, people just start jumping in, doing whatever they want. So.
Let people know I want to comment, or can we comment?
We got a hand up from Bill.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, this is Doris Dullian, and I wanted to comment, and I don't know if this is appropriate, having just heard the comments about Trans Bridge. Does that go now to the land use board, and that's where my comments would need to be
Yes.
voiced, or can I voice them here?
You can voice anything you want here.
All right, well, I happen to be a passenger who has ridden Trans Bridge for years, and the thought of not having any service from here to New York City on public transportation, and I use it often, bless you, to get to the airport.
Thank you. Excuse me.
And I just, without that source of service, I would be kind of stuck. So I don't know how things work, but clearly neither does Trans Bridge. So I think if we can accommodate them in some way, that would certainly be a benefit to the community.
Bless you, Finelli.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
There's really no way to accommodate. They have to go to the land use board to get approval to operate a bus stop.
All right. All right. So that means now, I guess from August on till they get approval from the land use board, there is no service to New York.
Well,
City
that's a
from the
decision for
Phillipsburg
Transbridge to make.
Right, that's their decision.
Well, they don't have any place to go, right? They don't have a stop.
Well, they had an approved stop, and it's not Greenwich's fault that they didn't know that they were moving into another municipality. And unfortunately, even if the township committee wanted to accommodate them, there's nothing in the law that allows them to do it. They don't have a permitted bus stop there. It's an unfortunate situation, but they're going to have to find something to do in the interim.
Okay, could you tell me where the approved bus stop is? Was it at the Phillipsburg Mall?
That's where you're gonna have to ask Transbridge that. I have no idea what their approved bus stop.
Oh, you said they had an approved stop. I thought
Well, where was whatever stop they used to use?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. That's not my issue.
Okay. Any other public comment, Frank?
I'm trying to unmute. There's somebody here called Mark. I'm trying to unmute. I don't see anything. I don't see any other public comment. If somebody wants to comment, you can send me a chat. No, Bob, I don't see any others.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close public comment. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I just like to make a comment. I understand that Transbridge has been a good provider of transportation in this area for a lot of years. I've used it myself. I don't really have a disagreement with Transbridge. And I understand that they provide a service to a lot of people to get to and from work and the airport. But the way everything happened with Transbridge and Home Depot, or the owners of that mall, I think is actually Toll Brothers, they needed to go to the land use board and present this for approvals beforehand. And to just let them come to a meeting doing public comment, one, you're only supposed to make comments, but two, to ask us to make consideration for temporary orders, where would that end? Next week, next month, do we get somebody come in and say, I need a quick, add a quick bedroom onto my house. Can you give me a quick approval to add a bedroom? Or somebody else comes in and says, they want to add 100 more parking spots to a shopping mall, but I need them quick because Christmas is coming. So I understand his business problem, and I feel for him, and I don't want to be nasty on behalf of the township, but we didn't create this situation, and it seems like he tried to throw blame on us for ending this 50 or 60 years worth of service. I understand his dilemma and his frustration, but you just can't go around and give out temporary orders and let people just start conducting unapproved business operations. I feel for them. I hope they come back because I use them too. So that's all I wanted to say about it.
Yeah, just one other thing. So when it does go to the land use board, they're going to take into account traffic, available parking spots. You got to remember, I know Mr. Gibran mentioned that he said something about extra parking lots that Home Depot allowed. There are no, as I understand it, and I might be wrong, but there are no extra parking lots. When we grant approvals, there's a minimum number of parking lots that need to be there. Mike, you correct me if I'm wrong, but all those things need to be taken into consideration. So when the land use board is going to take that into consideration, they're going to take into account how many in the approval that we had to have a minimum amount of parking lots there. So if you have, it's like establishing another business there that the land use board is going to have to take. They're going to have to look at it and see if is the traffic okay? Is there enough parking spots to handle the current volume there? So those are all the things, and that's why Bob is saying, and Mike Lavery too, that it needs to go to the land use board.
Yeah, I just don't think it's appropriate to try to circumvent the land use board process. That's all I'm saying. And then I feel for the situation, but anyway, but okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Anybody else have any comments? I'm sorry, because Frank commented, I comment. Anybody else?
And again, they were kind of here because I told them, because they were between a rock and a hard place. And I said, not knowing the legalities, maybe there's something the township committee can do, but Mike Lavery summed it up that there's nothing we can do. So, but again, it was my suggestion that they come and talk to us.
Hey, I understand he runs a bus company. He's not a lawyer. I don't have a problem. Like he didn't know. I understand. I don't have a problem with that. But even as far as the stop, he probably didn't know any better and didn't think he needed a lawyer for it. But anyway, it is.
Got it. No.
I just don't like the insinuation that it's our fault that business is stopping. Maybe the process should have started 119 days ago before the land use board, and it could have been resolved by now.
Then just one other thing to add to that. If it's our fault, then it's Pohacon's fault because they have large parking lots in their
that's
town.
all. I just don't like. I don't like the shot that it's our fault that they're losing a spot. Anyway, let's go. I'm looking for approval, motion to approve the minutes of the July 16 meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, discussions on it? Corrections? Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Pro?
Yes.
Looking for a motion to approve the treasurer's report and the August bill list. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Anybody want anything pulled? Any questions,
Well,
comments, discussion?
I got a couple questions. The first two are for Mike Finelli. Mike, what was the Wilson variance for solar panels?
Yes. What is it?
Yeah, what is that?
It's a pending application before the land use board for a variance for solar panels facing the street. They are scheduled to be on the September agenda. So those were completeness reviews. I assume you're looking at our bills. Those
Yeah,
are
your bill,
completeness-
yeah, because it didn't say it was related to the land use board at all. It came right out of the general engineering.
Oh, well,
And that's why I was asking.
where it's coming from, I can't help you there, but it should be an escrow. It's a land use board.
I don't believe it said escrow. I might have overlooked it. All right, second question. Weber. It says for, well, again, I guess it's going to have to be the land use, but initial completeness and technical?
For Wilson again?
No, it says Weber.
You mean Gene Weber from our office? Weber.
The invoice only said Weber. All right, no big deal. We can go on.
Weber, I don't know, Paul.
Okay.
There's no job named Weber. We have an engineer, Gene Weber, who I think a lot of you know, and he appears on a lot of the bills. But
all right, again, I think I'll have to look at it tomorrow when I was signing the POs. I don't think they're labeled right. They need to be attached to land use and not general.
Well, hey,
most likely. Okay.
On the detailed bill list, the Wilson variance is coded to the planning board.
It is, okay. I just missed it earlier today then.
What's the amount on the other one you're asking?
It was $500.
I don't see an amount for 500 either. Must be
Okay,
very-
that's fine. I was just kind of questioning what they were. I thought they were misaligned. My third question would be repairs to the cameras at Thomas Stewart Park for Cooper. What was that all about? And that's not you, Mike.
I think they got hit by lightning.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, what a drag. And then, of course, Lisa, you and I
at a very bad time, I would note.
I see that Toshiba is still charging us the surcharge for property damage.
I was able to secure certificates of insurance for all of our copiers from them, so I'm hoping that they'll refund that one and we won't see that in the future.
Right, are we getting some of the back months or not really?
I'm gonna fight for it. I asked Brian to try to pull up the backup for last year.
Okay.
So I'll work on it.
All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. So we're good with the way the motion was, right? To pay everything?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, roll call, Lisa?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay. Looking for a motion to accept the tax collector's tax and sewer reports for July. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Anybody have a second? I'll second. Anybody have any questions, comments, discussion?
No.
Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to accept, to approve the consent agenda 4A, the Police Department report for July of 2024, B, Department of Public Works report for July of 2024, C, Township Clerk report for August 2020, and 4D, the court report for July 2020. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Anybody have any questions, comments, or discussions on those? Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve resolutions 5A, 6260, redemption of tax liens, 5B, resolution 6320, refund of tax overpayment, 5C, resolution 6420, redemption of tax liens, 5D, resolution 6520, redemption of tax liens, 6620, redemption of municipal liens, 6720, the renewal of liquor licenses with one change. Mexi Bishop is off that list, correct, Lisa?
Correct. Till next month.
Until next month. And 6820, refund of release payment. Anybody want to make the motion to adopt those resolutions?
I'll make the motion.
Anybody want
Second.
a second? Any other questions or comments on any of them? Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Prone?
Yes.
Looking for a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 109/2020, purchase of a backhoe and appropriation of $108,000 from the capital improvement fund for the purchase of that backhoe. Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make
the motion.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
second.
Frank, can you open it up? Anybody wants to ask any questions or make any comments regarding that ordinance?
I'm going to attempt to unmute everybody in the audience right now. I unmuted everybody. The two phone numbers are still muted, assuming they want it that way. Jeremy is still muted.
Bill and Doris have no comments.
Okay.
We're good? Looking for a motion to close public hearing for ordinance 109/2020. Anybody want to make the motion?
Make the motion.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, Lisa?
Um,
Well, I know, we need a motion to adopt. I'll make the motion, we adopt ordinance 109/2020.
Do we have
Anybody want a second?
do we have to close public hearing first?
I did already.
we did.
We did already.
Okay.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Bob.
Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Prone?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing for ordinance number 110/2020, special emergency appropriation amount of $50,000 for the preparation of tax maps. Anybody want a second?
Second.
We do it all in favor rather than a roll call, Lisa, for that?
Yeah. Yep, for the,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Frank, can you open up for public for that?
I left everybody unmuted, so
Okay.
anybody have any comment?
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing on ordinance number 110/2020.
I'll second.
Roll call? Oh, no,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, aye. I'll make a motion, we adopt 110/2020. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Prone?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing ordinance number 111/2020, ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 7 to 715 entitled motorized vehicles. That's the one for the parks, right, Frank, and public property?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any comments, Frank?
Anybody in public want to make comment?
Could you explain what that ordinance is?
The
Yeah,
one I
it's-
just said for motor- Yeah, go ahead. Frank, go ahead.
there was a problem with people operating ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, and driving them in township-owned detention basins, which obviously affects the integrity of the basins. So we got to, they were riding off-road vehicles and other things on township property. So it's an attempt to stop that.
Okay.
Any
Anybody
other
else?
questions? No other questions, Bob?
There's another one?
No, no other
Okay.
questions.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing on 111/2020. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance 111/2020. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
A second, roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
And Mr. Prone?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing on ordinance number 112/2020, ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 3-2.4 for noise ordinance. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Frank, you open?
Anybody like to make a comment?
Actually, I have a question about that, about the noise ordinance. So is it
Yeah,
going?
sorry, before you state, could you state your name and address, please, for the record?
Sure. Melissa Still, 1729 Washington Valley Drive.
Okay.
Is the noise ordinance going to be changed where they're going to put a time in place of when music has to be turned down?
It's
Well,
question.
it says between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
See, now I spoke with the police department last week and they read the ordinance to me, or at least what they thought was your ordinance, and they told me that there is no time and place.
Well, I just read from section 1B. So,
Okay, well, I don't think the police department knows about that because we've had several police here because of our neighbors, and
no,
we've had multiple.
Yeah, let me just explain.
Okay.
This, once the township votes on it tonight, then it would become law. There would
Oh,
be
so
no
this
reason-
is the new, or I'm sorry. Okay, so this is going to be
Yeah,
new.
so the problem
Okay.
was, previously, there's a DEP regulation that regulates noise. So normally you have to get a decibel meter, then you have to have a surveyor survey that they're at the property line. This makes it easier to enforce noise complaints because you don't need a decibel meter. It's just if it's annoying to you, and if it's especially between the hours of after 10 p.m. and before 7 a.m., and it
Okay.
just makes it the noise ordinance easier to enforce when
Okay.
somebody's making annoying noise of whatever kind. Yeah, so the police will get a copy of this, assuming the committee passes it tonight, and then they'll be able to enforce it.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
question. And doesn't the new law also, during the day, limit how loud it can be by the sense of you being able to hear it beyond a certain distance? I thought that was also part of the new.
Yeah, basically what it does is it creates a nuisance. So in the past, the courts would not enforce like noise ordinances that employed like nuisance concepts. But this comes right out of an appellate division case that actually came out of Hackettstown, where somebody was creating noise, and the court said, if you adopt the provisions of this particular that we have in our ordinance, then you can enforce it as a nuisance violation. So yeah, during the middle of the day, if somebody's creating noise that's a nuisance to you, and again, it's to the person receiving, not necessarily the person emitting, they'll be able to write a ticket for that, and they'll be able to enforce it.
So I didn't want the public to think that it's only enforceable after 10 p.m. and before 7 a.m. It's also enforceable during the day.
No, you're right. It's just, if it's after 10 or before 7, it's just, yeah. But you're right. It can be enforced at any time during the day.
Melissa, the ordinance should be posted on the website as well, but if you have any trouble finding it, get in touch with me and I'll get you a copy.
Thank you.
Does that ordinance include barking dogs? Because dogs
It's basically any noise. Yeah, it used to be, towns had a lot of ordinances that said the dog had to bark for 20 straight minutes, and then there was a question of, did the person doctor the tape and stuff like that. It's just now it's like straight nuisance, so it doesn't have to be any particular time. Any noise. So it would include barking dogs.
That's good to know.
Anyone else? Frank, anybody else?
Nope, I don't see anyone else. There's no chats. We're good.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We close public hearing on ordinance number 112-2020. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion. We adopt ordinance 112-2020. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, Lisa?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay, next, before we even do any introduction or make any motions, does anybody want to discuss this ordinance that the land use board is recommending that we adopt, Frank or Paul specifically, because you're both on land use board?
Actually, I'd rather Mike.
Lavery, okay.
No, Finelli.
I mean, that's what I meant, Finelli. I'm sorry, Mike Finelli. Come on down.
Okay. I'm looking at the agenda. What are we talking about?
Well, this is one with the solar panels on some certain circumstances on the front of the property.
Okay. I can certainly give a summary.
Mike, just before you do that, this was based on incorporating it into the structure itself? Is that what this one is? Or
Yeah,
is
it's,
the, yeah, Joe's shaking his head.
yeah,
So
I
this
don't,
one is incorporating it into the structure instead of having it lay on top of the roofs, right?
right.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
There have been a series of recent variance applications made to the land use board. And I mentioned it before when Paul brought up the Wilson application. And that's for, we have an existing provision in our code that does not allow solar panels to face a public street. Well, depending on the orientation of the house, that can be problematic for people that want to put solar panels on their rooftops. So Beth McManus, who gets the credit for authoring the ordinance, at least to date, did some research and so forth, and basically we came up with a modified version of our current code, which would allow solar panels to be placed on the rooftop facing a street if they're integrated into the roof. And as technology progresses, right now there are, and I guess they're getting pretty popular, I'll call them solar shingles, where instead of the big box or the solar panel that's mounted on a rooftop, which is a little unsightly, I think we would all agree with that. These are actually integrated right into the roof structure. They're actually pretty aesthetically pleasing, and it was a way to, I think the land use board felt it was a way to try to accommodate a lot of these residences or the residents' current problems in trying to comply, as opposed to needing to come to the land use board for a variance and having to file all the fees and so forth. It's going to cost them $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 before they're done just to get approved to place the panels on the roof facing the street. So land use board, and it was a number of months back and forth, a lot of discussion, and they've kind of come up with what they think is a good proposal that they're recommending that you guys consider. And the process would be, if you're okay with doing it and moving it forward, it would have to be introduced on first reading, which obviously isn't tonight. And then
Frank,
go back to them.
If Frank or Paul want to make a motion to do the introduction, or anyone else, it could certainly be introduced tonight. It's ready to go. So.
Sure, I don't have a problem.
Okay, that saves a month.
So Frank or does anybody want to make a motion to introduce ordinance 113/2020 regarding these renewable energy facilities?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll
Anybody want a second? Any other further comments, discussion on it?
Yeah, so I got a question. I'm trying to find it in my documents. So is it limited to ones that are, built, how did you describe it, Mike? Integrated?
Integrated into the roof.
So that means a normal rooftop mount is still not allowed?
Correct.
Not the front,
Oh yeah, facing the front.
which is what it is right now.
What if it, yeah, I know. What if it's cost prohibitive? Couldn't a person argue that you're forcing them to
That's where,
take
that's where variances are for. So they'd have to go to the land use board and get a variance.
I thought, when I saw this, and again, I'm trying to find it, I don't know where my copy went. I thought this was to allow the rooftop mounts facing a public. I don't understand why that's such a big deal.
It's given more options is what it's doing. Right now, they don't have any option other than trying to get a variance.
Then why don't we just allow them to do the integrated and the rooftop? Why does it have to be limited to the integrated?
I'll speak for the consensus of the land use board, and a lot of the members think it's unsightly, so. But there is a way around it.
I think a lot of people's landscaping and the way they take care of it is unsightly.
Noted.
But I mean, I'm thinking about, I'm raising a point here, and Mike Lavery is the attorney. You're now forcing individuals who only have the ability to put it on their front to use an integrated solution, which most likely, and I don't know because I don't have the data, is more expensive. Is that legal?
Well, right now, we don't allow it at all, Brad. They have no options. So this is giving them an option they don't even have.
I would even question the legality of that, being that it's an inherently beneficial use, but I'm not taking up an argument. But my preference is, if you're going to do this, do it all the way. If they want to do the integrated, that should be a choice, because it's their house, it's their aesthetics, it's their resale value. If it's aesthetically unpleasing to have rooftop mounts, then a potential buyer in the future may not.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate. It could affect the house next door trying to sell theirs, but I don't think it will, but I'm just saying.
I guess I just wanted to clarify that the rooftop mounts are not allowed still.
Facing the street, correct.
Okay.
They're certainly allowed on the backside, if you will, the rear roof.
Yes, no, I know. This is all about front facing the street. But if you have it on the rear and it's facing the street, is that okay?
You have it on the rear, no, it's not.
So if you have a corner house and the back of your house faces the street, you can't put it on the back of your house either?
That is correct. I know. There was a
It's a joke then. I mean, why are we even considering?
And I don't mean to interrupt Mike or Brett. Mike, it's being approved on the back of houses that face another street because there's a row of houses in between. And I'm going to take Jackson and Dumont, for example. If you drive down either one of those, the houses on Monroe the back faces Jackson, and there's 4 or 5 of them with solar. There's 3 or 4 of them on Dumont with solar.
And that's my point. That's exactly my point, Paul. It's like the back of these homes, particularly in Greenwich Chase, you can see those just as easily as you can see the front.
I couldn't agree with you more, Brad. I couldn't agree with you more.
Limiting the front helps anyone other than it just punishes a resident whose only option is the front. And now we're telling them you can do it, but you got to pay for something that probably costs twice as much. I don't like it.
Well, it's not that you don't like the new ordinance. You don't like the current.
I don't. That's why I'm upset, because I thought this was fixing it.
Oh, no.
That it's
Well,
it is improving it. It is giving somebody an opportunity.
It's giving them an option so they don't have to spend money on a variance but you're still forcing them to spend more money. You haven't saved the resident anything.
Brad, do you want to send it back to the land use board for them to have to do further consideration?
That's not my.
That is our job. We could do that. We could.
No, I know, but that's not what I'm one vote. I would send it back.
You're making a point. You may have swayed people. We might vote no to this, and then you can make the counter vote to send it back to land use board for.
Well, let's see. Yeah, why don't you let everyone vote on the way it is? I'm just making my points. That's all. And you asked for my comments, and that's my comment. So I'll close that.
Okay. Roll call, Lisa.
Mayor Barsney?
No.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
No.
And Mr. Prone?
No.
Brad, do you want to make a motion? We send this back to them for further consideration and review?
I'd like to make a motion to send it back to allow not only the integrated, but also the mounted ones as well.
I'll second that.
I don't think there should be any limitations, is what I'm saying.
I'll second. Anybody you have further comment? Go ahead, Brad.
No, just other than what normally would have to conform from a.
So just question, Mike. So if it goes back to land use board and land use board doesn't agree, and they send it back to the way it is now,
then we vote in September.
Then I have to vote on it again. But if we vote no again, then what? Can we just?
The township committee's got to adopt it. So
right. So I'm asking is, can Brad introduce his own for the town committee, or does it have to come from the land use board?
Well, what happens is it can come from the land use board, or it could originate here, but the land use board has to have their 30-day review, so to be able to comment on it. And then
just comment on it though. They don't want to have any pass. So if Brad, let's say it comes back Brad still doesn't like it, he could introduce his own, send it to the land use board. They could comment on it only, right? They
That's
can't
correct.
reject it. So there's your, we'll see where it goes, but just want to know the procedure.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a land use board to give comments on why that should not be included or why it should be included. That's all I'm looking for.
I can tell you what they're going to say now, because
I mean, I know Brad sounds like he's pretty well set on what he wants to say, but I'm willing to at least listen to.
I'm willing to listen to it as well. I've heard this. I've been in town for 22 years. I always hear it's aesthetics. Like I said, I don't think aesthetically, again, my personal opinion, solar mounted, having solar panels mounted on a house is aesthetically unpleasing. I don't see it at all. I don't see it any different than having an electric meter on the side of your house. I don't see it any different than having a gas meter on the side of your house or an air conditioning unit on the side of the house. I don't see it as unpleasant. So for me, aesthetics, it doesn't change the aesthetics of the house at all. We're not talking about historical homes here. If you want to put in a clause that says you can't do it on historically preserved homes or, something like that, that's one thing. But you're just talking about people who just want to get some solar electricity. Their only options on the front. We're saying no. Everyone else can do it who happens to be facing south on the back. And now you're telling them, yeah, you can do it. But, oh, by the way, now you got to pay for the more expensive option because, well, we don't really like the way it looks.
Yeah. Or you can get a variance.
Which is cost $3,000, Mike? Is that what you said? $4,000?
Yeah. Yes, that's more. It's actually more than 3,000.
Okay, I lost track here. Do we get a second on Brad's motion yet or not?
We did,
Okay, so we're ready for roll call, right?
yes.
Go ahead.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
We're voting on sending it back?
Yeah, for further
Yes.
discussion and comment.
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Well, since it was voted down, I'll vote to have the land use board look at it again. So yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
And Mr. Prone?
Yeah.
Okay. Park use forms. What do we want to discuss on this? I mean, I'm okay with the way it looks. Does anybody have any comments? Do we want any changes to it?
Lisa, the one I had still, I thought it still showed the pavilion showing the pavilion at 50.
That's great.
Yeah, so we were going to, I'm not sure which version you're looking at, Brad, but essentially, as you and I discussed today, the Thomas Stewart Park rental fees would stand as what the land use board set with the 150, and the municipal park and the, the Stecker Field Park, they would both be 25.
Yeah, the one I had.
I don't have that one either, Lisa.
I don't have that one. I got 50, right?
Well, when we had spoken to Mike Lavery, we were going to eliminate an additional charge for if you had alcohol. So whatever that number is that you guys are looking at, there was just going to be one fee for each rental.
So it's 50 for the municipal park, 50 for Stecker, and 100 for Thomas Stewart Park, or 200 for Thomas Stewart Park?
I think it's 150. Is that right, Brad?
150.
Yeah, I thought it was 150.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's per the 2019 ordinance that we adopted, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with this form. So do we really need to approve it tonight? Is that what you're looking for us to?
I mean, it's just the mocked up version of the last one.
I think sometimes with this type of stuff, I think we just overthink it. I mean, it's a form that applied to use the park. Use the pavilion. All we're really trying to do is reserve it.
Correct.
So we don't have 7 people show up to use it the same day.
Right. So the only reason that we're redoing this, Bob, is because
as simple as possible.
The 2019 version included the park and the fields use, and it's very confusing and complicated. So this is just going to be for the pavilions.
Yeah, that's all I think we need to do is just,
Right.
I'm okay with it.
The other thing too, right, Lisa, was that originally, and it wasn't intentional, it was an oversight when we set it as the OS committee. it was setting the pavilion rental fee the same for all three. And it really wasn't the intent. It was really to establish the fee on the new pavilion because it's
Right.
brand new,
Right, yeah.
etc.
Right.
So the original, the one at the municipal park and the one at Stecker, we never intended to raise the fees on those. So that was an oversight on our part.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Now, Lisa had also brought up earlier in the day, some folks are calling about using it for dance class, yoga sessions, and things of that nature, which I've personally witnessed a dance class and let's just say a jazzercise and exercise class up there. Does that need to be? Do we need to offer that up as a benefit, or they're taking their chances by just going out there and hoping the pavilion's not used on Monday morning at 10 o'clock?
That's what the form is for, right? So it's to reserve it for a time that you would have use and for your time. So if somebody wants to use it every Monday at a certain time, then I would recommend they reserve it. Because if someone else has it reserved, they have to leave and give it up to the person who has the reservation. So
right.
No reservations. It's a
understood. But now if they're doing it at Thomas Stewart Park, they're going to pay $150 every Monday for an hour.
If they want to use the pavilion, I believe we said it that it's you rent it for the day, or it's like what, 5 or 6 hours?
It's 5 hours.
5 hours. So they get it 5 hours. We're not going to start doing hourly rental because it's just going to create more, administrative.
The only problem I can foresee we could run into though is I don't know if it's appropriate that some dance studio comes in every February and fills out the form from April through October that we're using every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. to noon. I don't know. I don't think that's what the purpose that is. I think residents and people who want to use it for other purposes want access to it. That's the only fallback. I'm not saying we have to address that tonight, but I think I could see where that become an issue.
Well, then, if we wanted to limit how many times in a month you can use it, I thought there was something in the ordinance that prohibited from blocking it out permanently. I know we did that on the athletic field.
Yeah. I think that's the only thing we'd have to watch for is something like that. Because, like, say, 10 o'clock in the morning would be maybe a time where a lot of people might want to use it after a funeral or something like that, too, or something. So I don't think it'd be appropriate that a commercial business comes in and fills out a form from April to October every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday that they get it. So I'm just giving us a heads up for the future. That could be an issue.
Yeah,
Bob, I'll add that to the list for consideration for the amendment of that ordinance. But
yeah, I agree. My last comment though is like, there's a lot of calls coming in, from businesses like yoga and dance classes because of the restrictions on indoor.
Yeah.
So it's a temporary thing. And look, if they're local businesses and they need a place to stay in business and want to use the park, we should encourage it. We should.
Yeah, I understand that now. But let's say next year it's over. I don't know that that's what you want to do with the.
They're not going to want to be there. They're going to want to be in their own place. But until they get
I
back.
don't know. I think outside sounds pretty interesting. I don't know about that. I think once they do it.
I support local businesses. So if it helps local businesses stay in business, then we should do that.
Let them book it from April to October from 10 to noon.
I'm not saying I'm not saying they should do it every day. No, I'm saying is if they want to use the grass, you can't stop them.
I've got no problem with that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for someone to reserve.
No, I agree. For the pavilion, if it's becoming a nuisance where other individuals can't use it, then absolutely.
What we're under now, I have no problem with. I agree with you. I don't even know if I would care if they use the grass next year or any time. I agree with you on it, but I don't think we should let someone tie up the
No, I agree. No. I was saying just use it in general. I think.
Okay. So I don't think we need a motion or anything. You know what you're doing, right, Lisa?
okay, so as long as you guys are approving the new form, I'm happy. I can start renting.
Do we need to approve the solicitor permit? Is that what we're looking for here?
Yeah, we just need a motion on the record.
And that gentleman's been here before and stuff, right? He's always been pretty, he's always worked pretty well with everybody, right?
He hasn't gotten a permit since I've been here, but possibly, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the solicitor permit for Trinity Solar. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments?
Just tell them to
Roll call.
avoid soliciting any of those houses that have public facing.
All in
Very
favor?
good, Brad.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All in favor, aye, aye, okay. Any nays? Okay. COVID-19, date to reopen to the public. That's you, Lisa, for the offices?
That was just a holdover from last month. I didn't know if you wanted to rediscuss.
Everything seems to be working well. Yeah, no one's complaining. We haven't had people stand in lines at 6 feet intervals waiting to come in the building, correct?
No, everything's fine.
Okay, good. The insurance renewal, I think what we need to do tonight is approve Lisa to notify PAC that we're going to solicit other quotes for insurance. It's a requirement of our contract with them. You want to explain a little bit to them, Lisa, so they know what we're talking about?
Well, that's it. We either move forward with signing up for another 3 years, or we take this opportunity right now to send a letter stating that we want to shop around. It doesn't change anything. We can still sign back up for PACE, and we likely will, but it gives us an opportunity to get other prices, which is always good. So
Yeah.
I'm recommending this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're dropping out of the pack, and not that we can't stay, but I think we should at least look see what competition's out there. So, anybody have any comments or discussions on that?
No.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Lisa to notify them that we're going to look for other quotes before we renew. So, anybody want to second that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Good. I guess, Paul, this is where you wanted Transbridge
Well,
to
this
be?
is, I guess I should have let this play out, because I would have asked Mike Lavery, instead of having Tom come up in open public, if it was possible that the township could do that, because I knew that was what he was going to ask.
Okay.
And then Mike would have told me, no, Paul, it's not possible. And I could have saved Tom the trouble of, doing the open public comment and the whole kit and caboodle. So, but yeah, we don't have to deal with it. It's done.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's for Mike Lavery. So, because I don't know, or maybe Mike Finelli. So, when that mall, the Home Depot and ShopRite, when all that was built and the parking was established, does that ever get reevaluated where things change in the usage where, and again, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. I'm not arguing that a bus stop should be there or that it shouldn't be there. I'm just asking a question here. Because we talk, because Frank brought up a very good point about the parking being established. It was there at the time the mall was built. So is that reevaluated to say, look, the dynamics of the store that are there, because sometimes they change, and the dynamics of how many people actually visit it, because we have more online shoppers now, so there's less people going to physical malls. Does that then change the requirement of the parking for those physical locations where someone could say, you have more than enough parking because you don't use it, because 25 years ago when it was built, more people shopped in person than they do.
That's what the purpose of land use board is. You go to land use board and say, well, how to change.
I'm not saying that.
Oh, if you're asking, is it done, are we initiating that? The answer would be no.
I'm not asking.
We're not initiating it.
I'm just asking that there's the owner of the land is an owner, says that there's more than enough parking there.
Right, so he comes to the land use board and they do a site plan review and they'll determine it then, which is what we're telling them to do.
And it changed.
Yeah, and Brad, on a change of use, like if let's say there's a retail store there and then they come in and they want to put a restaurant in there. So obviously that's different parking requirements. Or at any time, if they wanted to, I don't know, provide more green space and reduce the size of the parking lot. If they brought in expert testimony in front of the land use board would say, yeah, I guess that, we agree with that or we disagree with that. So there's not anything that's done on, say, a yearly basis, but it is reevaluated every time they come in front of the land use board. And there's nothing that stops them from initiating their own application if they felt that they had way too much parking and they had some other use for it. So they can appear in front of them at any time.
Yeah.
And if I can chime in there a little bit, Brad, no, they don't do it. When they get the final site approval, there's X amount of parking spaces for the businesses per se. And unless somebody changes it, they want to. And this particular situation with Toll Brothers and particularly the Home Depot, and I'm going to throw the Lowe's into the mix here. This is where I've always had an issue that they are supposed to provide, and I'm going to pick a number because I don't know what it is. They're supposed to provide 500 parking spaces. And all of a sudden, every spring and fall, 150 of these parking spaces disappear because we now have plants, mulch bags, and this and that out there. I always thought that was adverse to what the site plan had for that because they took those parking spaces away. So I think that the conversation with Toll Brothers and eventually the Land Use Board is kind of mute because they already take parking spaces away and it doesn't present the problem.
And again, I guess there's 2 points, which is one.
Well,
You're
what do you mean it's mute? The conversation with the Land Use Board is mute. I don't get that.
Well, because the Home Depot has already done it. They've already taken.
Because we're not enforcing our zoning, right? We should be enforcing our zoning, but okay.
That's not a zoning issue. If nobody knows what the site plan says,
What are you
the
talking
site
about?
plan's been put away forever.
How's that not a zoning issue? If that's the zoning says you can't use them for. Listen, I don't want to go off on a
No,
tangent.
right.
But the point is, it is a land use board. It's not a mute issue. It's a land use board issue. Now, land use board could decide, yeah, you have plenty of parking. Let's grant it. That's fine. But they have to evaluate it.
No, I understand they have to evaluate it, but I thought the argument does in favor Toll Brothers or it favors them because they've already gone and done it.
Or it could be against them because they already took away X amount of parking spots.
I guess the two things I just wanted to clarify was, one is that we're not relying on the study that was done back in 25 years ago for what was required for parking. It's going to be, it should be reevaluated, I guess, and that's the applicant.
If they come to the land use board, again,
they would have to request that. But to your point, Paul, is that if they already are using parking spots today for putting mulch, I think that tells you the answer. They got more than they need.
They got more than they need, exactly.
Yeah, Brad, that's a fair point, but I think what you're trying to say is you want to put the onus on the township every couple of years to look at these plans.
No, I'm not saying that.
It's up to them to come in and say we have a change.
No, what I'm saying is that it's
not
based on a study done 25 years ago. You're locked in. As a landowner, if I'm that landowner, I'm going to say no. I'm going to argue no, that's not the case anymore because the dynamics of commerce have changed. That's
exactly where you go to the land use board for. That's exactly where you go.
Right? He can go to the land use board, he can apply for it, he can make that argument. It came across.
I think we probably shouldn't be making a case for anybody here right now. Let it go through the process.
All I'm saying is there was a comment made that when we designed that and the parking was approved, that can change. Things change.
Right. That's what the land use board's going to look at.
Right. That's all.
The other thing is the type of parking. You're going to have overnight parking. You're going to have things like that were never considered. They got to take that all into consideration. They may very well.
There's a lot of factors, look, again, I'm not arguing for one way or the other. There was a point that was made that.
Wait a minute, okay.
I didn't want to, it almost sounded like, all right, you set the standard 25 years ago. It doesn't mean it can't change. It almost came across like saying, no, you can't change anything because we set it back.
No, that's not what we said at all, Brad. What we said to them was you need to go and get a change in the use. And with the argument you're using is what they would come in and say that,
right.
Things have changed, whatever. But the way you said it originally, I was thinking is you thought we should do a review every 5 years and go to Home Depot.
I am not. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, as a landowner, if it were me as a landowner, I'd be like, well, if I have a different tenant coming in and I don't need as much parking.
That's not the only consideration, though, Brad. That's not the only consideration.
Well, no, I know. Brad, that's what was done, and that's why we issued a cease and desist. Because
I know. I'm just saying, though, it came across kind of like, it was done and that's it, and that's not what my interpretation of how things are. That's all.
What was done?
I don't understand what your point is, but anyway, let's move on. The code enforcement book. Brett, is that you, Paul?
Yeah, that is me. And this is a question for Attorney Lavery. I can't find in our code enforcement book where it says if we don't address something that we automatically can refer to state laws. I was told that that needs to be spelled out someplace in that book. True? Yes? No?
I'm gonna have to check that. I'm not. I mean, usually every code section in a code book is like basically a codification of a state law anyway. But I'll check on that. I
Well,
don't
and
know.
I'm going to take the noise one, for example. The noise, the state of New Jersey's ordinance actually gives decimal levels, which we didn't do and things like that. So
Right.
we don't have in our book that if we don't cover it, we can go to the state code level. And I was told that it needed to be written in there or it could be challenged.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know that you can do that without doing an ordinance incorporating whatever that is.
Well,
like
no,
if-
that's what I was told we needed to do is put an ordinance in that says if we don't have it covered in our code enforcement book, we're allowed to use a New Jersey code enforcement book.
I'm not aware of that. I will check that. My
Yeah, that's
understanding
all.
was always that, for instance, on noise, if you wanted to adopt the decibel, you had to actually do an ordinance for that particular, whatever topic you were addressing. But
Right.
I will check on that.
That's it.
Okay.
Townwide yard sale is also mine, Bob. I've had a
Okay.
couple of residents ask, are we going to have a townwide yard sale? And I don't see any reason why we couldn't. They're certainly outdoors. It's going to be what I guess we usually did it in October anyway.
I don't
October
have
3rd
it.
this year, and we've been allowing them.
Yeah, we had one in the spring, right? Did we do it in the spring? We talked about this then. But in the spring, wasn't the rules were tougher than, see, the
Yeah,
problem
we
is.
we couldn't do it in the spring, but we have been allowing individual yard sale permits for the last
Okay.
6 weeks.
Well, again, and I think the difference with the townwide, maybe we're gonna need Mike to research this, is part of the concern with a townwide yard sale is like having a parade. You're encouraging a bunch of people to show up in one location. And if
Right.
it exceeds the number. So I really don't have a problem with it. It's outside. I don't see a problem. I don't see that we're gonna have 10,000 people lining the streets, but I don't know, Mike, can you give us an answer on that, you think, or not? Or do you just want to disapprove? I don't care, however we want to do it.
I mean, the way that seems to, right, the townwide yard sale, they just go to individuals' houses, people that
Yeah.
participate, right? You don't have one central location that they go to. So
Yeah.
I think you'll be fine. I mean, that the state requires you to social distance, so people that engage in that, should just make sure they wear masks and that type of thing. But otherwise, I don't see a problem with it.
I'm okay with it. So you have a date you want to recommend or anything, Paul, or Lisa?
No, I guess we always kind of did it with our fall cleanup. It was always the weekend before the fall, or our fall cleanup. So I wouldn't try to change that process.
Yeah,
I was just
per Joe Mexi, this year it should be October 3rd.
right. So
Okay. So I'll make a motion. We authorize a townwide yard sale for October 3rd. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Anybody else have any comments, questions, discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah? Any nays? Okay, Lisa, you good?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Advertising signs.
Advertising signs. We do have a fairly strict sign ordinance and things like that. But we're forever getting signs put up, and particularly one spot up there, our municipal property where affordable housing's going. And somebody calls and complains. Larry calls them. They do or they don't come and pick it up. We have the option of taking them to court. Nobody's ever gone to court. I was just wondering, and again, this is for Attorney Lavery, if we send the DPW out to pick up these signs, because the way it goes right now is you have to notify them by letter, and then they have 10 days to pick it. So that sign can be there 15, 17, 20 days.
You don't need to notify.
Right.
Mike's always told me we could pick them up and bring them there ourselves.
Well, we can, but I don't want to be sending DPW out on our payroll to pick up signs.
Come on, that's a 2-minute job.
Well, actually, it's not. You're into the truck, you're here, you got to go down to 173, you got to go here. I don't want to be giving Joe a list of signs every Wednesday morning after zoning and have him have a guy for an hour and a half out picking up signs.
Well,
So my question is, if we have to pick up signs, can we bill the people who put the signs in inappropriately?
We'd have to do an ordinance to allow us to do that. So
Right.
now, first of all, if somebody puts a sign on municipal property, you can just take that sign because they don't have permission to put that sign on there. Private property is a little different, but the usual, I mean, my experience has been the usual violators stick them in the right of way because there is this myth out there, which is completely untrue, that if it's a public right of way, that allows any member of the public to put signs there. Like realtors always do that, et cetera. It doesn't. The right of way is a public right of way so that the township, if they have to do work in the road, can use that right of way. So this proliferation of signs in these right of ways is completely illegal unless they get permission from the property owner. So,
I understand that. And I personally, I know Bob Venturson used to pick up some signs, but he really doesn't anymore. Here's one of the things, and it has nothing to do with me because I'm kind of ignoring it because I'm in the industry. But there's a ton of landscaper signs. I'm certainly not going out there and picking up other landscaper signs just because I'm a town official. You know, it is certainly a conflict of interest. You know, so nobody goes and picks anything up until somebody complains, and then it's handled by way of Larry.
Why don't you do this, Paul? Paul, why don't you just tell Joe Mexi and them if they see a sign on our property to pick it up?
Yeah, in the past, that was the policy. The policy was the DPW.
Not that they have to go look for it, whatever like that. If they're riding down the road and see it on our property, just tell them to pick it up.
I mean, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, okay. Short-term rental ordinance on handling pool rentals.
Yeah, that was me. So
Yeah, I know.
then, I don't know if people have seen the news and all that, but, you know, we put the short-term rental ordinance to avoid a lot of the issues that some of these towns are now facing. Now, apparently, people are allowed to rent out their pools, and it's caused big issues in other towns where you're having huge parties and whatever. So one of my questions was, I know we have the ordinance that we put together. Does that cover pool rental or ordinance? Would that be the same thing, Mike?
Well, I guess if somebody was to rent out a pool, if they rented out the house, yes, it would. So well, there's a lot of things that go on nowadays that I can't believe, but I think usually if somebody was renting out a pool, they would be renting out the home as well. And also I would say that even if it didn't, you can't, I mean, then you're running a commercial enterprise, right? If you're renting your pool out, it's like it's becoming a public pool. So I don't think, even if
there's websites that are, like, somebody sent me a website that they do that, and there's homes in New Jersey that are on this website where they will rent their pool.
But I think that's a zoning violation because it's no longer a residence. Now you're running a commercial operation out of a residence.
Yeah, but
So
I want to know how we could stop it in its tracks, not have a zoning officer have to get involved and have the police be able to stop it.
you know what? The easiest thing would probably be to amend the ordinance on the short-term rentals and just say houses, homes, however, whatever the definition is, single-family homes and pools. And that's the easiest way to nip it in the bud. Because otherwise, you know, you can go out there and tell them, hey, you're violating our zoning ordinance because you didn't get an approval to use that as a.
So we had an issue where somebody rented a house, I think it was local over here, where the cops had to come. It was a huge, big party they rented it for. People are renting houses for huge, big parties for pools now and causing major disturbances in some towns. So I like to head it off. So I would be in favor of amending the ordinance. So I guess we got to hear from everybody else to disallow it. I don't think the purpose of people's property in residentially zoned neighborhoods is to necessarily, you know, use it as a business if it's in a residentially zoned neighborhood.
Well, I think what Mike's saying is that's what he's already saying, that you're not allowed to because it is commercial. What about she sheds?
What about your backyard? What if someone just wants to use your yard for an event?
Yeah, we could add that to it, you know?
I guess my point is,
Your point is that they can use it for free. That's fair. But now they're going to make a business. They're going to put themselves on a website. And now somebody they don't even know is going to come and they're going to pay them money to use it without, you know, if you're going to let somebody use for free that you know, that's fine. This is where I stand.
So what do you want to do?
I would like him to amend the ordinance. That's
You want to make a motion that, or you
I'll
want
make a motion to have Mike,
authorize him to amend the ordinance or what?
I'll make a motion to have him amend the ordinance to restrict renting yards or pools.
Anybody want a second?
A second.
Any further questions, comments, discussion? Roll call. I
Mayor
guess.
Barsney?
Or could we did all in favor, huh? Yeah, I'll say yes, Lord.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay, old business. Do we have anything, any updates on the firehouse?
Not that I know of. Joe?
Okay.
No.
Okay. How about the fertilizer registry? Frank, do you have questions on that, or is that all?
Mike, so we had brought this up in the past. You know, I know you said that the state has records of what's being applied. Just want to know how we could get that information to our residents. Is there a site that we can refer them to on our site? Do we have to let them register here? Because people want to know if their house is next to a farm. Some people want to know what's being applied.
Yeah, they have to apply to the DEP and get a permit. And I thought we had done that ordinance, and I guess we didn't. That said that they had to file with the town the same paperwork they file with the DEP. So that's something, I think for starters, we should probably put that on for first reading at the next meeting. And if that's what the committee wants to do. And basically, it just required whatever they're going to apply. We can't really regulate them, especially if it's the farm.
Yeah, we just want notification.
Right, and they have to file an application, and my recollection is it was at least 30 days before the application. So the draft ordinance just said that they had to provide that same paperwork to us, which I don't think is an unreasonable request. And then at least you've got something to hang your head on. But I will check and see if that's posted on the DEP's website anywhere. I'm not aware if it is or it isn't, Frank, but I will check.
All right, great. So what do you need from us to bring this ordinance to the next meeting?
I had sent a draft back, I think it was before the end of the year to everybody. And then I don't know if it was because of the COVID or whatever, we didn't do it. My recollection was that we had, but I checked with Lisa and we never adopted it. We went through the minutes too, and there's no evidence. So I would just say at the next meeting, let's have it on for first reading. And again, if anybody needs another copy, I can always send another one. But like I said, it just mirrors what they're required to file with the state and says they got to send a copy to Greenwich.
Okay.
Okay.
Does it need any, you don't need any action, just going to bring it you're going to put it on for the next meeting?
You know what I'll do? I'll just re-email it out to everybody tomorrow. And so if anybody has any questions, call me. If you guys are inclined to put it on, then we can have it on the agenda for a discussion and then possible introduction.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. It's not on the agenda, but last month we started talking a little bit about when we're going to go live again with the meetings at the municipal building. Lisa, do you think you can reach out to John Paul and see if there's any way he could link the current cameras and recording system that we would be able to Zoom using those cameras so that as each one of us spoke, it would move, go on the Zoom and stuff. And we could at least have the Township committee, whoever wanted to attend, be there in person, the professionals who were willing to attend to be there in person, and people would only watch from home like we're doing now, Zoom, and that's how we do public comment, just like we do now through Zoom. I'm going to ask her, would you?
I actually did already speak to Jean-Paul about this when we talked about it a few months ago, and he just indicated that he thinks it's possible, but he would need to come to the municipal building and actually look at the equipment and see what we would need to do. So I'll make that connection.
Would you give us a price quote and stuff before we do it? I mean, we don't need an authorization, but I'm going to ask anybody, does anybody have any objection to us at least starting to look into a way of doing this? I know many other townships are doing this way now. So anybody have any objections to us at least trying to get some prices and ideas on how to do it?
No.
No objections.
No.
Okay, so here and none. Lisa, just see what you can find out for us. And I guess we'd have to approve the expense next meeting. So I was going to say if we got prices by next meeting and they weren't that high, should we try to do it for next meeting? But I don't know if we can do it. This is where government is slow with the red tape.
Well, unless you just, if you do a motion on the record right now for a cost not to exceed, Bob, we could do it that way.
I wouldn't even know what number to give. I don't even have an idea on something like that.
I wouldn't either.
I don't know about anybody else. I'd be willing to pay as much as $1,500, $2,000 to be able to do it. Anybody object to that much?
No.
I'll make a motion that if it can be done for less than $2,000, that we have it done and ready for next meeting. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on that?
No.
Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Prone?
Yes.
That's what I hate about government. Whoever does the job does, they have $1,999. Okay, correspondence, Lisa. Well, you know, the letters, anybody have any questions on the 3 letters that came in?
No.
We're attached to the agendas. Do the freeholders want us to act on that resolution 31020 or just discuss it or send a letter in support of it or?
I mean, if we wanted to mimic that, I could certainly pull it together for the next meeting.
Did you see where the freeholders were, they want to oppose the exclusive use of mail-in ballots for a general election in New Jersey? I don't know what everybody's opinion is or thing on it. Does anybody really want to do anything about it? I think they're asking us for input and support on it.
I'd be okay supporting it.
I support it.
I'm not too keen on them just sending out ballots to addresses. I don't have a problem with the way they do. The way they do absentee ballots, I don't really have a problem with, but just the idea if we're going to send ballots out to everybody, I think is crazy.
I have a
And
question.
Bob, just for your information, we had a Hunterdon County Clerks meeting, and our county clerk came and explained that 21 county clerks went to the governor's office to a meeting and voiced their absolute opposition to handling it this way, and had the support of, I believe, all of the Board of Elections as well. And here we are. So.
Yeah.
I have a question for Mike Lavery. Is who determines the election laws in New Jersey? Is it the legislature or is it the governor?
That's being litigated as we speak.
Sure.
So the argument is that the governor doesn't have the authority to do that because there's election laws in place. Title 19 says exactly how elections are conducted. So that's the basis for the Republicans' lawsuit against the governor, that he doesn't have the authority to do that.
So based on, you said it was Title 19?
So Brad,
Yeah,
the issue
Title
really is at this point is that by having a polling machine at the booths on election day, he's technically not, or he feels he's not in violation of Title 19 because there is a machine there. But if no one's allowed to vote on it.
Yeah, I see. My opinion on all this is I'm not necessarily opposed to mail-in ballots. I think you can do that with absentee ballots. I don't really understand why we need to do it outside of the absentee ballot process. Being said, my issue is it's an executive order. In Jersey, I don't even know that his emergency orders should even still be in power, being that the COVID has flatlined and his emergency powers were when it was really bad. That's just a personal opinion. But if this was done through the legislature and they approved it to be mail-in, I don't think you can have an argument. So my opposition to it is not necessarily that's mail-in. My opposition is that the governor doesn't have any authority to make that decision.
Well, I have a lawsuit in the appellate division now challenging his ability to pick and choose among businesses. So for the same reasons that the executive order, there's no question he has emergency powers, but there's got to be some data when you start picking what businesses to open. I think in the beginning, people didn't have a problem with it. And then, so we'll see. That remains to be seen.
Yeah. And my impression was that the emergency powers were related to matters of health. And if you can show, particularly if you can manage your operation safely, that you should be able to do it. I mean, heck, he's making kids, or he wants kids to go back to school, but you can't go vote. I mean, it makes no sense, you know. I just don't like the fact that he's taking control of something that belongs to the legislature. I think it's an overreach of power.
Well, what's interesting is there's other, not to go further down the rabbit hole, but other states have provisions in their constitution where the governor can declare an emergency for 30 days. And then after that, he's got to go to the legislature.
Right.
New Jersey, unfortunately, doesn't have that. New Jersey just says the government has these emergency powers and that he can do them. And that, I mean, the whole point of emergency powers is in an emergency when the legislature can't convene to make these decisions. So
yeah, and
in any event, we could.
We're still under, the virus is still alive and it's still around. I wouldn't say New Jersey's in an emergency situation right now, but then again, it could be in the future. But as I started today, I don't think it's an emergency. So I just don't like the way he did it. I'm not necessarily against mail-in ballots. I just don't like the way he made the decision.
Well, yeah, well, I don't like the way that they're going to, I wouldn't mind a mail-in ballot if you had to go up, register, show ID, and they're going to mail it to my house with my name on it. I'm going to mail it back. What they're talking about, they're just mailing out 8 million ballots. And if you want to send it back, send it back. That's like crazy.
Look, you should show your ID to vote. I mean,
yes, exactly. But hey, well, okay, let's.
So are you going to pass a resolution, Bob, supporting it?
Well,
What do you want to do?
for next month, let's see if we can come up with something to support the freeholders and what they vote for their resolution. Okay, some wording.
Yep, I'll craft something.
I'll talk to you about it in the meantime. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion. We open public comment again in case somebody got on late and missed some or whatever. So anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody, Frank, you want to open up, see if anybody wants to make a public
I'm
comment?
muting everybody. Some of them are staying on mute, so I'll assume that's what they want. But anybody have a comment they want to make?
I do. Jeremy Blunt.
Jeremy Blunt, why don't you give your address to Lisa, Jeremy?
337 Greens Ridge Road, Stewartsville.
Jeremy is on the land.
Okay.
I'm just looking for clarification. And I'm more or less here representing the Open Space Committee, Parks Commission. How we're, going to handle businesses that are using the pavilion, now to conduct business that do not have a permit and that are using it daily or multiple times daily throughout the day.
Is it a real problem, Jeremy? I'm not even aware that it's been being used that much,
Well, there is a business, there is that, the Showbiz Kids, and I've gotten a couple of comments about it.
Are they using the pavilion or are they using the grass?
They're using the pavilion for the last at least 3 weeks now, and they're using it multiple times daily.
I didn't even know this was going to come up. Were you on earlier when I said eventually this is going to become an issue? So I guess it's
well,
an issue.
I was, but I joined it. I joined it late, Mr. Mayor. So.
Okay. Or well, just for your edification, earlier we were talking about the use of the park, and I had brought that up. I said, how are we going to allow businesses to use it 3 times a week, 5 times a week, the pavilion in particular? And I said, eventually that's probably going to become a problem, and here you are. So.
Well, in this case, yeah, just without a permit, do we want to address that now or no?
Well, I think we determined earlier that they do have to get it. They do have to file the use form and pay the fee. I think we determined that earlier. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. They want it for a particular day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they take a chance of it not being available, just like anybody else.
Okay, now so who then should reach out to these businesses? Should that be Open Space, or that should be somebody from the township, or?
They would just contact my office.
Okay.
Jeremy, to the I don't know if you're aware, because I didn't actually. I'll send an email to the OS committee, but the picnic tables are there. Got delivered. Yeah. Nine of them got delivered last night or yesterday. I believe the other 3 were getting delivered today. And then on Sunday, I believe the final step in staining was going to be done. So there's going to be 12 picnic tables set up in the pavilion. There's not going to be any room for, dances or yoga. and those tables are really heavy, so you're not going to have too many people moving them. So I think
The ones that were delivered yesterday were moved.
Yeah, see, that's a problem.
no, they were placed there. They didn't. They
Oh,
never set them
they
up.
didn't move them?
No.
Okay.
No, they
Okay.
put them on the side because they're going to put them onto the grass on Sunday and stain them, and then put them back. And then I guess we just have to, or have Joe decide what's the best way to set them up and spread them out. But I guess it doesn't necessarily mean someone can't move them to make room, but are we not allowing people to move the picnic tables? I'm not so sure.
No, I know. And I'm sensitive to the needs of companies right now too, trying to make a buck at difficult times. It was brought to me, so I brought it to you, and it's great that they could do that. My only concern that I could think of was a company conducting business that's not on their business property. So if there was any liability issues, and whether you want me or somebody just to contact them and ask them to fill out a permit or get in touch with Lisa, that's all.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Anybody else on there, Frank, looking to come on?
Anyone else have a comment? See no other comments.
I'll make a motion to close public comment. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
I just want to make a comment about that. I mentioned it earlier. Frank and Brad, you might want to discuss that open space. I think that commercial use can become an issue because.
Well, I had a question on that too.
I saw that coming, and ironically, it came up tonight. I figured it wouldn't happen for a couple months, but.
So one question I have for Mike Lavery on that. So if a business is using it and one of the kids gets hurt, who's liable for the medical?
Well, when we fill out, I don't have the form in front of me. When we fill out that form, before anybody takes it, do they have to have proof of insurance or anything?
No, this is right now, what we're saying is if it's open, they can use it as long as nobody has it reserved. So let's say that happens. A business goes there, they use it, one of the kids gets hurt. Who's liable?
Well, I think you probably would have to check with the risk manager, but I would think, well, first of all, we will get sued. There's no question about that. And usually if somebody's using our facilities, we have insurance for that. So as long as they're there with our permission, if somebody's on there like if there's no requirement that they get a permit and they're allowed to go in there and conduct a dance class or whatever,
right,
we will get sued. But I would assume it's almost like our volunteers. Anybody that is a volunteer in town is covered by our policy. So
that's something that sounds like we need to consider. So businesses using the pavilion, our stated, what we stated here is that as long as nobody has it reserved, anybody can use it. They use it for a business. Let's use gymnastics as something. Kid gets hurt in there. Now we're going to cover a business's expenses for any of the kids getting hurt. That sounds
well, no, look, in this day and age, everybody's going to get sued. So the gymnastic company is going to get sued, whoever was running it, the town, everything else, because they're going to try to get as many pockets as they can in there. But, anytime you're allowing anybody to use your facility, there's going to be a risk, definitely.
Yeah. We're not going to resolve this tonight, but I think it's something we'd have to look into because just like I said about the dogs, a lot of those dogs aren't from Greenwich Township. What are we going to do if businesses from other places decide to start using out there saying, oh, they're pretty friendly to us? I don't have a problem with helping businesses at this time because it's a tough time, and especially our businesses. But I don't know. I said it earlier in the meeting. I foresee the problem. I didn't think it would come up this soon.
Bob, also our form always did address whether it was personal use or if it was a business that was using the pavilions.
Yeah, but what we're saying is they're holding a dance class, say 10 o'clock Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and they're not even applying.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, our form does address it, so at some point.
Typically, I want to care about that in a way, but on the same time, is it fair that somebody just goes out and feels they could use it every Monday? Actually, advertising our classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the Greenwich Thomas Stewart Park. I just foresee it becoming a problem.
Agree.
There's somebody there on the weekend, and she's setting up a table and selling drinks and doing exercises. The group's getting bigger and bigger. I don't think they should be there. I don't care if it's a personal, somebody doing it with a bunch of people. She's charging somebody something to be there. We shouldn't be responsible for them.
They're not,
I don't think they should be there.
the ordinance now has a no solicitation aspect to it, so they're not allowed to sell anything there.
Well, they're selling like these she sets up a table and at the end of her session, she's
That's
selling.
not, that's already in the ordinance.
Yeah, Lillian, are you sure that's not part of recreation? Because they did ask if they could start trying to sell water and such out there when there were certain events, athletic, sporting events.
Beach body. She advertises she's a beach body trainer.
Got it. Okay. Yep, that's not recreation.
Well, I think we should, I think it's something we just gotta research and figure out a way to word it.
Right.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to finish what we didn't get last time, which literally was only one topic. So I guess we're going back in for January kennels, public safety at Thomas Stewart Park, attorney-client privilege for regarding Warren Glen Road issue. So anybody want to second that motion?
Hey, Bob, we didn't do genre either.
I said genre. Yeah.
It's for executive.
I'll second it.
Then there's 3 items for executive.
Yeah, John, yeah, I said we only got through one last time. It's genre, public safety at Thomas Stewart Park, attorney-client privilege. Okay, anybody want a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, ending this
We're
meeting.
about to sign off if anybody wants to pay attention, but I don't really expect any action. So if they wanted to go to bed, good night.
Good night.
We will be restarting this meeting, just probably, like Bob said, just to officially end it. All right, I'm gonna end the meeting. Bye.